Hi everybody, welcome to Cage Minds. Today we're talking about the results from UFC 130. Our prior show was the prediction show. If you've seen that one now, you can follow along with me and see who was more right on the predictions for UFC 130. We're going to start at the bottom, at the Facebook fights, work our way all the way up to the Rampage Hamill pay-per-view main event. So the first fight of the night, as we had it, was Rene Barroa versus Cole Escobedo. If I mess up anybody's name, I apologize deeply for my mispronunciation. These two fighters, though, had a hard-fought fight that went all 3 rounds. The unanimous decision was pulled out, though, by my pick, Rene Barroa. Moving on to the second fight of the night, we had Chris Kurosawa taking on Michael McDonald. Another fight with 2 warriors lasting all 3 rounds. Went to the decision. It was a controversial split decision for Michael McDonald, but my pick yet again, so there is 2 correct. Moving on to our third fight, we had the 2 replacements both coming into this fight about 4 weeks' notice in that range, both men, with Gleison Tibau taking on Rafael Oliveira. Gleison Tibau used some particularly better striking and grappling, hit the man to take the fight to the ground, on the ground, took his back, used some more ground and pound, and Rafael Oliveira eventually gave up his neck. Gleison Tibau sinked in a pretty slick rear naked choke that gained him a $70,000 bonus for submission of the night. Gleison Tibau, my pick again, so that's 3 up. He won. Moving on to our next fight. That was all on Facebook. We're moving on to Spike TV now. We had Kendall Grove, the Ultimate Fighter Season 3 winner, versus Tim the Barbarian Boach. Tim Boach was moving down from 205 to 185. Looks like he found a home now at 185. He's a wrestler with heart, strength, chin. Showed that heart, that strength, and that wrestling ability, tossing around Kendall Grove and taking a 3-round unanimous decision. The main event for our Spike fights was Miguel Angel Torres versus Demetrius Johnson. This fight was really high-paced, fast-active for a mainly ground battle. Demetrius Johnson did take a unanimous decision victory, having more takedowns, more top control. It was a very interesting fight. Look for Demetrius Johnson making his way up in that bantamweight division. This takes us up now to the pay-per-view. That started off with Sanduku middleweight champion George Santiago making his UFC debut versus Brian the All-American Stan, the former Marine who I didn't want to pick against on Memorial Weekend. Well, Brian Stan delivered for everybody, finishing the fight in the second round with the TKO, knocking George Santiago's eyes rolling in the back of his head. Brian Stan is here. He is in the middleweight division, and he looks to be a force, improving greatly every time we see him, the American hero, the All-American, looking good. The next fight, as we move on, was Thiago the Pitbull Alves trying to keep his spot in the welterweight division in that upper echelon of the division, taking on Rick the Horror Story. Rick Story had better grappling. My pick was Alves, but Story's grappling, his takedowns. Again, the story of the fight for an Alves loss. Same against GSP, same against John Fitch. He maybe should think about going to some kickboxing bouts instead of the MMA because his takedown defense just seems to be lacking against the best of the best. But Rick Story, here he is, making his way up. He took that unanimous decision victory. Next fight of the night, we're getting bigger. The big boys. Stefan Struve and Travis Brown. Travis Brown perfectly landed a huge Superman fist, right fist, to Stefan Struve's head, and Struve nearly got his head knocked off. He was out before he hit the ground. It was amazing. If you have a pulse, it was jumping at that moment. That was the highlight reel you will see for a long time. This takes us all the way up to the co-main event. Big Country Roy Nelson and Frank Mir. Frank Mir was my pick and did his thing. He was a true heavyweight instead of, as Joe Rogan put it, a guy that just likes to eat. Roy Nelson looked out of shape, looked tired, looked sluggish. Frank Mir dominated the fight from the striking to the grappling, control, ground and pound, top position. Took an easy 3-round unanimous decision, leading us up to the Quinn Rampage Jackson, Matt Hamill, main event. The big question again, like we had in other fights on this card. Would the takedowns or would the takedown defense be more important? First minute of that fight, we found out Hamill was unsuccessful at the takedowns of Rampage. So to tell you, Rampage picked him apart, hit him with hard shots. Matt Hamill's striking was just too slow. Rampage did dominantly control the fight, never finishing the fight. So that's UFC 130, with Quinton Rampage Jackson finishing the main event with a victory. Now we're going to move on to a little segment talking about the ramifications from what happened to the event, and I need you guys to, well, take a piece of gum and chew on this with me when you think about this. So UFC 130 now. The main event was in the light heavyweight division. The big news coming out of that is that even with the lackluster performance, not impressive by any stretch of the imagination, Quinton Rampage Jackson has now positioned himself back into the opportunity if his left hand clears. Supposedly there's a fracture. If the medical x-rays clear, he'll be the new #1 contender for Jon Jones' belt. How we got to this point, I'm unsure, and if you have a chance to question Dana White or anyone in the UFC, I would say to do it. Because Rashad Evans has not lost a fight, has not lost his #1 contendership that he's been waiting so long to fight for. And now, Rampage gets the steps in, what doesn't make sense. Seems like some things behind the scenes may be going on. Rampage looked less than great in his victory over Machida, where I basically felt it was only his forward movement that gave him the victory. If you look on the CompuStrike numbers, it was 33 strikes to Machida for 16 to Rampage. No, I am not getting this wrong. Machida hit Rampage twice as much, but because he was backing up, he lost the fight. Well, Rampage, then decisions, Hamill. Well, Machida knocks out Couture. Who looks more deserving of a title shot? Oh, yeah, and Jon Jones, waiting to heal up. We'll see how he does as his first title defense. But Rashad Evans did beat Thiago Silva, did beat Quinton Rampage Jackson. At the least, I say that we should see a Rashad Rampage rematch to get to Jon Jones, not understanding how Rampage just gets to, put that last loss behind him and move on before the man that beat him that has not lost since then. Well, that's a lot to chew on. The light heavyweight division's confused, but always, at least they'll settle it in the cage and we'll get to see some fights. Thanks for chewing on that. This is UFC 130, the results show from Cage Minds. I'll be back next time with our Ultimate Fighter Season 13 finale preview show for my predictions for that. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Bye.